I'm Amanda, and this is Not Your Granny's Quilt Show. Howdy, hello. How are you? Welcome to today's episode. Oh, that was kind of high pitched. It's fine. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to the show today. I have an awesome guest. I loved this chat. Christine Lindebak is so cool. She is a sewist. She designs her own clothing patterns. She has online classes on demand. She does one that's has a live component of like how to fit your garments to your own body. So cool. She has a YouTube channel with like some sewing tips and advice. And she has a clothing brand that's kind of made to order kind of stuff called LindyLindy. I just can't wait for you to hear from Christine. She's so lovely. If you're not on the YouTube, you should at least go check it out because she's got on the greatest top that she made, and she added these adorable puff sleeves made from a quilt flimsy. So it's got some beautiful red and white patchwork on it, and I just couldn't stop staring at it. And I feel like my eyes kept like wandering to her sleeves during our chat, but it's just beautiful. So I hope you go look at her work and her patterns. She's got some really great designs. In her beginner course, you make a sweatshirt instead of like, I don't know. I don't know what you would make in a beginner garment sewing course, but she has you make a sweatshirt, which I thought was so clever. And, who doesn't love a sweatshirt? But anyway, I just can't wait for you to hear from Christine and to get to know her, and hopefully you go check out her stuff and hear what she has to say about being a maker and a sewist and an upcycler. So, anyway, let's get into it. Did you know that if you are a paid Patreon member that you can get access to ad-free episodes? That's right. If you go to patreon.com/notyourgranny'squiltshow and join as a paid member, you will get access to the week's episode with no ads. So head on over to patreon.com/notyourgranny'squiltshow and join today. Hi, Christine. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm so good. I'm so glad you're here. This is going to be great. When I became aware of you and got to see your work and
My
um
dog is saying hi as well.
hi
Yeah.
puppy, we love doggies. That's good. Yeah, I've been obsessed with looking at all of your work and patterns and all that. So I'm so excited that we get to chat today.
Awesome. Thank you. I know I'm so excited too after listening and finally getting to be a guest. It's
Yay.
so exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, so cool. So you're do you say Lindebak or Lindebak?
Yeah, Linda back.
Lindebak. Okay, so you're Christine
Yeah.
Lindebak of Sewing in the City, and LindyLindy is your clothing brand, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
great. So yeah,
Yeah.
just introducing people to you so they know who you are. But so you're not exactly a quilter per se, so this is a little different angle, but you're still a sewist. You
Yeah.
still make beautiful stuff. So how did you get into sewing?
Yeah, well, I've been sewing since before I can even remember. So, the story that my mom tells me is I was literally like begging her to let me use the sewing machine. The sewing machine was in like the corner of the living room.
Mhm.
And my mom is actually a quilter, so she has
Okay,
a long arm, and I quilt with her. But
nice.
back at that time when I was little, she would make like our clothes and special outfits and things. So
Yeah.
we had a sewing machine and my mom was sewing, and I, for whatever reason, just needed to sew. And she tells me she was a little bit of afraid because I was so little to let me, use the machine.
Yeah.
But I think finally I just got so annoying to her that she was like, okay, you can do it. And I have not stopped sewing since. I've been sewing, yeah, since. So
Yeah. So tiny, tiny. That's so
yeah.
funny. I love talking like hearing people who are like, oh, I just like I've always loved it and whatever as a little kid. And I'm like, I was so scared of my mom's sewing machine as a kid. It took me until I was like 32 to learn how to sew.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
I could do minor things here and there, and like I knew kind of how to use the sewing machine, but it was like not my thing at all. So,
Yeah, but that's such a good experience too, because I think a lot of people are like that.
mhm.
If you
Yeah,
didn't necessarily have, as a kid, and some people think, oh, it's too late, or oh,
yeah.
whatever. It's like it's never too late.
Mm-mm. No, you're
Yeah.
right. It's never too late.
Yeah.
And I mean, so many of us like millennial quilters are living proof because a lot of us didn't even start until, well, I started pre-pandemic, but a lot of people started like during the lockdowns because they were like, I
Yeah.
need something to do ASAP. And so
Yeah.
they got
Yeah.
got sewing machines and figured it out. And thankfully, like there is YouTube and lots of
Totally.
you've got a YouTube channel too with some sewing tutorials
Some
and
how-tos.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so you're in that
That's
game
fun.
too. It's like it's such a useful tool and it's so cool. But so yeah, tell me how you got it because you've got some like clothing design, you do upcycling. How did you get into all of that?
Yeah. Well, how did I? Upcycling kind of came super organically several years ago. I had an old Gap, like a jersey knit dress.
Oh,
And it like, I had had it for several years and it was super basic and boring.
hmm
And it was in like the giveaway pile, like when you go
hmm
through your closet.
Yeah.
But the fabric, it was actually a really nice knit. So I decided to just chop off the sleeves. I love puff sleeves.
Mm,
I love sleeves. So
yeah.
I do a lot of puff sleeves. And I just decided to put puff sleeves on it in like a really bright printed fabric. And it
Mm,
like gave the dress a whole new life. Like I wore it and then I actually ended up cutting it into a top after that. So that was my first really like upcycling project.
hmm
And I think I just really got a lot of satisfaction from it and it was fun.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think that's how it started. And then I've always loved vintage linens. So like
Mm,
the embroidered pillowcases and
yeah.
embroidered tablecloths. And then so I just kind of started playing around with those. And then it just became like I was just upcycling because I was doing a lot of it. So
Yeah. Wow, that's
yeah.
so fun. And
Yeah.
like I think that like upcycling and it's always been kind of around obviously, right? Like everybody not everybody, but mending clothes and upcycling them, changing them, giving them new life has been around forever. But I just think of all
Yeah.
the times I did it as a kid, like not even really knowing what I was doing. But I'd be like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna cut the inseam out of this pair of jeans and then we're gonna fill it with fabric. And like I'd have my mom help me. And so I had like all these denim skirts that I had made and just like had her fill the inseam spaces with batik fabric that I got Joann's and like I'd trim it out with like rhinestones on the pockets and like little hand embroidered like flowers and stars all over my jeans and stuff. And I was like, oh dang, I've been doing this forever. Like
Oh, heck
this isn't
yeah.
new.
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
it's so
think like
funny.
those are the projects that, they spark something because it's
hmm
like when you first make that mental connection that
hmm
you can take this and make it into something that no one else is going to have. It's like, wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So adding the puff sleeves onto that dress, like had you been making your own clothing for a while? So you already like kind of knew the structure and how to add that or
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
okay.
I've been making I started with doll clothes when I was
Mhm.
when I was really little. That's what I
Okay.
sewed for like a long time. And then I started making my own clothes. So I
Okay.
was that teenager that I would wear like a lot of things that I made. And it was like I luckily it was kind of fashionable, but I definitely had some hit or misses when I was in that like high school phase.
Yeah,
So I've always been sewing and wearing my own clothes.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. I think it just gives you like a little way to kind of stand apart from the crowd too, especially when you like
Yeah.
you're like, well, I already don't really, at least for me, like I already don't really like fit in, but this makes me feel cool. And like I would always get people
Yeah.
being like, oh my gosh, like your shirt or your dress or what, whatever. And I'd be like, oh, thanks, I made it, or like, oh, my mom made it for
Yeah.
me, this like super tailored like idea. And I think it's like for me, like I kind of fell away from it because I was just like, I don't have time for that. I'm not a sewist. Like I don't have my mom's help all the time now. And so I think that can be hard, but
Yeah.
you've been doing it for your whole life. So it's like probably just something you've always taken with you.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I think I've had times in my life where I haven't been sewing.
Mm,
But then it's like you just come back to it when, you know, and it never, even with quilting, I'm sure like
yeah.
it never goes away. Like you just take a little break and then you get back into it. So I think
Yeah.
that's one thing I like about sewing is it really does like it's just there. Like it waits for you like an old friend, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And it's true because the the skill is always there. Like you don't lose that skill. It might be a little like shaky getting back into it if you have like a long gap, but it's, it's like, oh, it's like riding a bike or whatever. It's like once you learn that skill
Yeah.
and your body kind of knows what to do with it, it's like once you sit down at your machine again, you'll figure it out. Like
Oh,
you'll
totally.
start to get those muscle memory, like, oh yeah, this is how I, you know, thread my machine, or oh, this is how this like pattern
Yeah.
works out or whatever. So that's kind of
Yeah.
I like that, like the old friend instead of riding a bike because it's like riding a bike is scary.
Yeah.
I've done it a
It
lot, but
is.
I
It
like
is.
crash all the time. So I'm like, I'm done with that. But yeah, coming back to an
Yeah.
old friend is like you just pick up where you left off and learn new
Totally.
things, or it's like you're bringing
Yeah.
your history with it, but you're not like stuck in the past. I love that.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, so you have like so much going on. So I'm just like, I don't know where we start. But so
Oh,
when did
yeah.
you start wanting to design your own patterns? I guess we can start
Um,
there.
yeah, yeah. That was well, it was like in when I decided so sewing in the city, I started it in like 2013 or so as a blog. So
Okay.
I was living in New York, working in fashion. So
Okay.
I had like a whole first career working in fashion. And so I was sewing, like
Hmm.
sewing dresses and whatever.
Yeah.
And I would blog about them. And then in 2019, I had left my corporate job, and that was like when I decided to I put my focus into making sewing in the city like a monetary thing. Like I decided, okay, this is going to be at
Okay.
very least a side hustle.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really when I started getting more serious about actually making patterns for more than just me.
Yeah.
Whereas before, like I wouldn't necessarily make a pattern, but I would like, you know, cut the sleeves off of things and, you know,
Yeah.
change this and all of that, but never really had done like a solid pattern from start to finish.
Okay.
So yeah, and my first pattern that I did was just a sweatshirt.
Mm.
So basic crew neck, and it's part of I have a like a learn to sew course.
Okay.
And so that's part of the course, and you learn to sew making the sweatshirt. So it's something a little bit different than, you know, a lot of times when someone wants to learn to sew, they like make an apron or pajama pants, or, you know,
Hmm.
that's kind of like the typical. So sweatshirt, something a little bit different.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was actually the first pattern that I did.
That's awesome. Ooh, I love a
Yeah.
good sweatshirt too. Like my closet can attest. There's more
Yeah,
sweatshirts
me
than
too.
anything else.
Me
I'm like,
too.
should
Oh,
probably get normal
that
clothes.
reminds me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did a sweatshirt where I took a quilt block and put
Yeah.
it on the front, and it's one of my
Yeah.
favorite sweatshirts. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love to see that. It's so fun. And like, I think sometimes as quilters, we just get these orphan blocks that we're like, what do we do with
Yeah.
this? Or we just like
Yeah.
want this cute fabric in a way, but we don't want to make a whole quilt with it. So like, I love
Yeah.
that kind of trend that has come about of like adding just a lone quilt block to a sweatshirt or a jacket or something like that. Cause it's like, lets
Yeah.
you showcase that, but it also feels like vintagey and like cozy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, there's something about like a quilt, like obviously a quilt or especially the quilt block that just kind of signifies that home,
mhm.
cozy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
it's really good
And if
feeling.
if anybody's not on YouTube, you need to come on and see Christine's sleeves because she's got
Oh
puff sleeves on
yeah.
her shirt and they're quilted. So cute.
Yeah. It's like I mean, this was my first go at doing this project. I was kind of
Patchwork.
doing it as I went, but it's just a
Yeah.
quilt, like a quilt top.
Yeah.
So it's just a single layer. And I did like a star. I don't know.
Yes,
You
I
can
can
kind
see
of
it.
see.
Hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, and then I've just popped it on a t-shirt.
I love it.
So kind of fun.
So cute. Yeah, it's like I love finding different ways to like build kind of the quilted idea or like the pieced look into clothing because I think like there's nothing like a good staple basic like white t-shirt, black t-shirt, like having like a good base, but like I'm like you, I love a puff sleeve. I love like something fun and like pops of interest. And so like having that kind of mashup and having skills to be able to do those mashups is so cool. And I think when you kind of dive in and have multiple skills, it's like some people are like, oh, I see online, they're like, I've only sewn clothes. Can I quilt? And I'm like, hell yeah, you can quilt. It's just straight
Oh
seams.
yeah.
Like you're good, like
Yeah.
you've done way harder
Yeah.
stuff than this. I promise you.
Totally, totally. But
Yeah.
yeah, there is something kind of intimidating, I guess, about it because it's like they can be so beautiful and intricate.
Hmm.
But yeah, you're right. It's just really about, I mean, I guess really it comes down to your trimming skills, right? Just
Hmm.
trimming the blocks and getting them even.
Hmm. Yeah. And your seam allowance, I mean, that 1/4 inch seam
Yeah.
allowance is money because
Yeah.
and like hear or seen from quilt or, so it's like they're coming from garment sewing to quilting. They're like, I just did what I normally do and did a 3/8 seam allowance. And so all their pieces are so tiny and they're
Oh,
like, do I need to redo this? And everybody's like, yeah, sorry. Because
oh,
it's like,
bummer.
turned out a third of the size that it was supposed to because they shrunk all their seam
Oh,
allowances. And
yeah.
it's just funny, but it's like once you nail that 1/4 inch seam allowance, you can do anything in quilting. So
Totally. I love that. That should be like a t-shirt.
yeah, probably I'll make it. It's fine. No.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's so
totally.
funny. And it makes for an interesting, I think, perspective because when you're coming from clothing, you have like a different view of fabric than you do when you're a quilter because you're like squaring it up and you want very straight lines and these very crisp kind of cuts. And I feel like the people I've talked with that come from garment sewing to quilting and mix and match, they just have like a different view on it. And they're like, oh, but if I cut it this way, then it's going to create some stretch here. And they like have this like perspective that maybe a quilter like that has just done straight piecing, quilt top piecing isn't going to see in fabric or not know that they can adventure out and use different types of fabric to incorporate
Yeah.
into a quilt. They're like, well, I can't use this in a quilt. I'm like, why not? And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I think that's been interesting. Or trying to figure out, like, can I turn this quilting cotton into a usable clothing item that isn't going to be too stiff? And, it's like
Yeah.
trying to merge the two worlds can be kind of tricky, but I think there's so much information out there too to help.
Yeah. Yeah, I do that a lot where I'm like, I love this quilting cotton so
Mhm.
much. Like I need a shirt out of it. Um, so so yeah, I think that's kind of where this comes in is kind of nice because it's like a
Yeah.
way to use the with a like a softer white so
Hmm.
so it isn't so stiff or heavy.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are ways to kind of integrate quilting into wearable, comfortable pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause I think that's like, I tried to make, well, anyway, I tried to make just like this easy caftan out of just regular width quilting cotton, which is like only 42 inches wide. So it just was
Yeah.
like too narrow and too like boxy. So I was like, screw this. So I like hacked it apart. Well, I hacked it, but I cut it short, cut it off, like followed the line of this dress I have that I like the shape of
Yeah.
and tried to turn it into this different dress. But like the neckline was too low. So I was like having my mom kind of help me rework it. And it's wearable now, but I'm like, there's little
Yeah.
things I'm like, oh, I need to fix the hemline because it's not heavy enough to like stay down. So it like like crunches up into
Yeah.
my my thighs because my thighs eat everything that I wear, so
Yeah.
it's fine. But just little things like that. But I think like, yeah, just like kind of figuring out how fabrics work, I think is where maybe garment sewing can be a little bit intimidating. So like, yeah, I guess did you is there like a good resource for looking into that or trying to figure that out? Or is that something that like you would include or can look for in a clothing pattern to kind of understand the different ways that fabrics work together?
I think it's such an interesting question, and it's something that I don't often like think about because it just kind of comes, I guess, kind of at this point just easily, and I kind of know like fabrics to gravitate towards.
Yeah.
Um, I think, and it's hard, even harder nowadays. I was gonna say like really getting fabrics in hand is the
Hmm.
best way, but it's getting harder and harder nowadays without
Yeah.
Joann's and all of the like our shift towards buying more online.
Hmm.
But I mean, yeah, I think feeling, if you can get to a store that has some fashion fabrics and, looking on the bolt and seeing, is it
Mm.
like a viscose rayon, which is kind of flowy
Yeah.
and you probably would never use it in quilting, but it can be an interesting like flowy dress or
Hmm.
something. Um, I use a lot of denim, like denim, chambray,
Hmm.
like just poplins.
Hmm.
So I kind of stay with like the natural fibers as much as possible.
Okay.
And then knits, like just a jersey knit that I'll get like, the Hobby Lobby kind of now is the place, I guess, without Joann's just for like
Yeah.
knits. So
Yeah.
yeah. And sometimes like Fabric Mart, I'll
Mm.
find they do like a lot of designer dead stock
Okay.
fabric. So yeah, I'll like scan they do a lot of sales. I'll scan them for good knits. So yeah, I think it just
Okay.
kind of is like trial and error,
Yeah.
figuring, maybe starting with, yeah, like a cotton poplin, or knits are really like I think knits can be really have kind of a intimidating outer like kind of reputation, but they're
Yeah.
actually so forgiving.
Hmm.
Aside from like a neckband that really is going to be front and center,
Yeah.
everything else is really forgiving because it stretches. So
Yeah.
it's like it's actually, I don't know why people are tend to be a little bit cautious with knits. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, then the whole other thing with garment sewing is fit. So
Hmm.
I know a lot of people kind of they stay with quilting. At least in my world, I see people who are kind of coming over to the garment sewing side from quilting,
Yeah.
and they've maybe quilted or done clothes for their kids or grandkids, and then they're like, I want to make something for myself.
Hmm.
And that's when fit becomes so important because like all of our bodies are different.
Yeah.
So sewing patterns are generally drafted for like one body type because
Hmm.
you have to make it for one,
Yeah.
measurements, right?
Yeah.
And but then what happens when you have, and most patterns are cut for like a B or C cup, but
Hmm.
what happens when you have a D cup or an A cup,
Hmm.
or you have like a sloping shoulder or a narrow shoulder, or
Hmm.
a fuller upper back or a sway back. So all those things are like these little adjustments, pattern adjustments that you can do.
Yeah.
And they can be really intimidating for people, but they're so easy. Like once what it is that's causing like pulling here or
Hmm.
not giving you enough space or
Yeah.
whatever the symptom is,
Right.
there's a really simple pattern adjustment that you can make and then the garment will fit your body.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's something that I think quilting is a nice break from that because you
Hmm.
don't necessarily have to worry about it fitting, a body. But
Yeah.
when it comes to garment sewing, anything, sweatshirts and t-shirts can be pretty forgiving. But once you get into blouses or pants or dresses,
Hmm.
usually we have to do at least a little bit of fitting. So
Yeah. Yeah. And that can be a little tricky. And I think that's too, like, I got a little bit spoiled like growing up because my mom sewed and she like would make
Yeah.
stuff for me. And I'm like, I've got, I've got one size kind of on the bottom and another size on the top. And so one size
Yeah.
does not fit all. And I would always get so
Yes.
frustrated shopping for things. And so it's like she always ended up making, my formal dresses, and I'd have her
Yeah.
help me with, just different things like, can you fix this here? Can you tuck this in here? Like to fit. And then, like I was saying, as I kind of moved out and kind of started growing up and getting my own clothing and stuff, I just like it's just always this fight. And I'm like, God, she spoiled me by like
Yes.
helping me fit my clothes to my body. And now that I'm like kind of venturing into more like mending what I have and fixing what I already have to not in an attempt to not purchase a bunch of new clothes all the time,
Yeah.
it is kind of like, okay, I need to focus on this and figure this out because I have great clothes. I just haven't been wearing a lot of them because of the fit. And it's like, I made a pair of forgiving pants are very like wide leg. You make them with linen, an elastic
Yeah.
waistband. And um, another sewing friend was like, you need to make these pants. Like, you need to make clothes because if you're, this is good for you. And I'm like, whatever. So I finally did it. And my mom made a pair alongside with me so that we could be doing the steps together so she could kind of help me along with it. Cause it's like my first full garment that I like made from a pattern
Oh,
and by myself.
yeah.
Like, anyway, so that was so nice to be able to fit them to me. And I did mess up some
Ah,
stuff, but I'm like, I know exactly what I did. I know why it happened. I know what I can do next time. And I'm like so excited to make my next ones. I have peach
yes.
chambray that I'm like ready
Awesome.
to make them with. But anyway, so yeah, it's like learning those little things. It's like, you're right. It feels like kind of special too, because then you get this like super custom fit to your clothing. And it's not just like a trash bag that you got at the garbage store, it's
Yes.
like
Yeah.
it doesn't look all weird and crumply, and it doesn't have to look that way, I
Exactly.
guess. I think sometimes we
Ex
just give up. We're like, oh, I just don't look good in clothes. It's like, well, you can.
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I hear that all the time because I do like a 4 week program called Fit Clinic where we meet on Zoom. And so like
Oh.
people will come with their, what they've made or their toile, like a
Hmm.
sample. And it's like so amazing to see people at the end, like that garment that wasn't fitting in the beginning,
Yeah.
then it fits and they've made it in their special, fabric.
Yeah.
And it's a really good feeling. And I think a lot of people, it makes me sad when I see or hear of people that say like, oh, I gave up like sewing for myself because I could never get it to fit. I never looked good and stuff or
Hmm.
whatever, when
Yeah.
it was really like all you needed to do was like 10 minutes of pattern, little pattern adjustments, but it's just
Hmm.
knowing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. When you don't know that that's something you can do, or like, they're like, if I just change this one thing, but not really knowing how to go about it, that can be really intimidating because it's like, I don't
yeah,
want to ruin this pattern. Because, like, I think that's part of it too, is if you're working from paper patterns, it's like,
yeah,
I don't want to ruin this pattern because then I have to like reprint it or have to like get it reprinted. And that's like kind of annoying. And it's already
yeah.
annoying if you have to like print everything on like printer paper and tape it all together. And
David,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I did find, I have to remember what it's called. I think it's just called like sewing patterns online, or no, I don't know. I'll have to look it up. But it's like they will take your indie patterns and like the large format of them, and they'll print them out for you on the type of paper you choose. And
Yeah.
it's so inexpensive. And I'm like, dude, this is so cool.
Oh, it's definitely worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't do the taping. I just like I
Yeah.
it's just so worth it. I found someone locally that prints on the AO.
Yeah.
And it's well worth the time just
Yeah.
to have it printed,
Yeah.
especially if you're gonna for me, a lot of my patterns I'll make more than
Hmm.
one of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it makes sense. It's a little bit of an investment in the
Yeah.
quality pattern. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Because it's it like I just always think about, the ones you buy at the store, like at the fabric store, and they're like the tissue paper, and you have to try to stuff them back in the paper,
Yeah.
the paper like folder and
Envelope.
envelope, and that I just have like such vivid memories because that's like my mom would be like, well, I'd be like, I want this thing or whatever, and she'd be like, okay, so she'd like pull out the pattern for it, and it's like, oh, we've made it before, so we just have to pull the pieces we've already cut out, and it's just kind of funny. And she had a bunch from her grandma, and it's just
Oh,
like a nostalgic thing too. I love the idea of like the old, the vintage patterns with like the tissue paper, but then also they're such a pain in the neck and they tear so easy.
yeah.
And so having them
Yeah.
like be able to be printed on a more structurally sound, paper or material is nice. But anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I have some of my grandmother's paper, like the paper patterns, and I
Yeah.
just cherish them, just to think
Mhm.
that she was dreaming of that item, and like
Yeah,
making it. And um yeah, and I just had the thought of like, because I love vintage patterns. I mean, I love patterns just period.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I just was thinking like, what are our grandkids going to have? They're not going to have like our patterns necessarily because
I
it's
know.
like digital. It's
I
kind of
know.
different. Yeah.
I know. It's kind of a weird thought. Like, are we leaving behind just like the physical item? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
it's
kind of
different.
interesting. But I think
Yeah.
that's like why I strongly encourage like my clients, my quilting
Mhm.
clients specifically, like get a
Yeah.
label on that quilt. Who made it? When did you make it? Who's it for? Because that's what is going to get left behind. And if, I just look at like we were kind of talking about before, like all these vintage quilts that kind of end up in the dump or like in the throwaway,
Yeah.
or they get like families don't know what to do with them or how important it is in their family. Like, and if, family members pass away and they've just got all this stuff to deal with, they're like, oh, nobody wants this quilt. They toss it because they don't know like where it came from. They don't know who made it. And then they end up in these like thrift stores and sometimes they don't get bought up. So then they end up in the landfill. And it's like, if there had been a label on that quilt, like somebody could have done something different with it. And if, same with clothing, if you make your own clothing, like there are ways to you can make your own labels. You can like, put
Yeah.
your name in it and say, I made this,
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
like because that kind of is what you're leaving behind. That's like gonna be your footprint that your family is left with. And so do you
Yeah.
want them to know that you made it and when and how and like give them some more meaning to it? Or do you just want them to like go throw it to the Goodwill or whatever it's going to be at that time? It's like,
Yeah,
I don't know what that's going to be
especially
in
with
30 years.
yeah, especially with quilts. I mean, they're just such they should be such cherished things,
Yeah.
I have ones that my mom has made me throughout the years that all the phases of her different quilting
Hmm.
like I don't know, trends or interests that she had.
Yeah.
Um I have one from I think it was Debbie, is it Debbie Mum? She used to do the animals. I think is it
Oh, yeah, I think
Debbie
so.
Mom.
I think
Yeah,
so.
like blocked animals. I have one that's like a teddy bear and
Oh.
the little ears. Just
Hmm.
so fun. And it's they're cherished pieces.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You're creating something, that could be heirloom. And I think that also kind of, I don't know who I was talking about this with. I don't know. It was a recent guest probably on the show, but I just
Yeah.
talked to so many people, so I'm like, I don't know who I had that
Yeah.
conversation with, but I know I had it. But we were talking about just kind of the there's just been this kind of feeling in the quilting world, at least, of like I have to make a quilt out of all the latest releases. I have to get my hands on all the fabric and make all the things. And so there are people who just have so many quilts and like or just so many quilt tops even that they haven't even finished because they're so busy staying up with the trends of like different quilt patterns and the different styles of fabric coming out and the different launches, and there's so much that it's overwhelming, and that kind of proverbial keeping up with the Joneses
Yeah.
just online.
Yeah.
And So I think I do notice like some people, some makers kind of pulling back and going, okay, what can I make with what I have? How can I be more
Yeah.
efficient with what I have so that I can make other things with the leftovers? And because inevitably we overbuy fabric because they're like, well, I'm just going to get 2 yards because I want extra. And, of whatever
Yeah.
print is
Or
our
just in
favorite.
case,
Yeah,
or
exactly. Yeah. It's
yeah.
like always good to buy a little extra just in case you do mess up, especially in quilting, because the cutting needs to be so precise. And even with clothing, because oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, um, but yeah, just having a more kind of, you know, what am I trying to say? Like an economical perspective on it instead of just like, I need to buy all of it all the time and like keep up with these people that I'm never gonna meet in person or that don't really care about me as a human. And this legacy I'm leaving behind of unfinished projects is like, is that really what you want your family to remember from you? And
Yeah.
like send me your unfinished quilt tops, I'll help you finish them. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's one of those things, but I think too, it's like with clothing too, it's like, are you, yeah, like I think too, like watching my mom be able to fix things and make things growing up, like even though I didn't touch sewing for a long time, it still gave me the perspective on life that like I can make that, and so
Totally.
I got heavy into like the DIY kind of things, crafting. I crocheted for a long
Yeah.
time, um and so I think having family around you, knowing that you made stuff that you sewed that yourself, you made it yourself, whether it's clothing, whether it's a quilt, whether it's home decor, it's like, oh, that's like really cool. And it has like your signature all over it. And that was like, when my grandma passed away, my mom was like, well, I know there's some clothing items that you might want. And I was like, I can't wear them. She was like this little petite, like large chested woman that like,
Yeah.
like, sorry, grandma. I love you. But that's just like her, she was not tall and, was not pretty flat chested like me, so it's like, it's stuff I
Yeah.
can't wear, but it's like I have it. So now I'm like eyeballing these things. Like, what do I do to make this like wearable for me or give it new life
Yeah.
so that I can work with it somehow? And, we turned some of her clothing into a quilt for my grandfather, but then he passed away. And so now my dad has it. And it's like,
Oh,
but anyway, so there are ways to like do it that you don't have to keep the clothing, but then it can be turned into something else. And
yeah.
anyway, I don't know where I was going with that, but I just kind of I think I'm in this mode of like, okay, what am I leaving behind? Like I don't have like my own children, but I have two stepsons and I've been their stepmom for a long time and for most of their lives. And so
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, what am I showing them of women on this planet? Like, yeah, I'm a
Yeah.
business owner. Their dad is like super supportive of me. We have a great relationship. We're very open with them. And they've seen me do all these different things, go to college, get a master's degree, be in my career, and then switch that, like run this business I have, do the podcast. Like they've, seen all this stuff. I'm like, but what are they going to be left with when their dad and I pass away? Like they have their moms, whatever. It's like fine. But I'm just kind of thinking of that, like my sister or my other siblings, like what are they going to see of me when I go? I'm the oldest, so I'm like thinking of these things, like all my younger siblings, I'm like, what are they going to see of me when I am not here anymore? And are they going to see some meaningful pieces that I worked really hard to like put my heart and soul into? Or are they going to see a bunch of crap I just made because I was trying to keep up with other people and make myself look good in a certain light? It's like, I don't know. That was a lot
Yeah.
of
That's such
blabbing
a
for me to say nothing really, but
no, I think you said a lot. I think it's a really important concept. And I think like as in fashion, like we look at fast fashion and how just out of control the whole cycle has become.
hmm
And I think if we're not careful, even just as individuals, that same kind of rhythm
hmm
can happen even with our DIY. It's
yeah.
like where it
hmm
just becomes like just too much.
hmm
And so yeah, I think it's something to be really mindful about.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I love how you frame it back to like, what am I what am I leaving? Like what is the bigger point of all the making, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but also like your stepsons get to see you sewing.
Hmm.
And you know, that just like your mom and my mom like made those imprints on us because we kind of grew up around it.
Hmm.
Like you have that same, you know, they are seeing that on
Yeah.
some level. And I always think like even, you know, neighbor kids or anyone who hears you say, oh, thanks, I made that.
Hmm.
You know, like little ears, they hear that. And it's just, you know, little
Hmm.
cues that they can file away. And you know,
Yeah.
hopefully one day they'll get the opportunity to create also. It's good.
Yeah. 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 I was kind of hoping like my nieces or my nephew would like get into sewing. And like
Yeah.
my younger niece, she did for a minute. She helped my mom make her own quilt. Like they designed it together and she did a lot of the
Yeah.
piecing. Like she's good. I was like showing her how to pin the backing onto the
Oh
zippers for the
yeah.
long arming. I was like, so you have to do
Yeah.
this and showing her how to grab like enough bite of the fabric and how to slide it through the zipper tape. And she was like, I can do this. She was like 7. She's like, I can do this. And she just like boop,
Whoa.
boop, boop, her little hand. She just like zipped it right on. I was like, holy cow. I was like, I need to pay you to do this all the time. Like, you're really good at this. She's like, I know. I'm just like really good at doing small things. I'm like, okay. She was so funny, but
Oh.
she's kind of, as she's turning into like a preteen, she's like, I'm busy with my friends. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Too
But
cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But
She'll
I
come
think,
back to it.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
like the idea is there and she's like made something really cool and been part of the process. And so I think that's
Yeah.
always going to live inside of her.
Oh yeah.
And my sister, like she's quite a bit younger than me. We have a 15-year age gap.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but
That's
she's
similar.
okay. Yeah. She's like
Yeah.
starting to she was living at home for a little bit in between like leaving her college town and moving down to California with her boyfriend, but um and we were running the business out of my parents' house for a while, and
Yeah.
so she was just there and was like around my mom and I making quilts all the time, and
Oh,
so she was just like, I think I want to make a quilt. And we're like, okay. And of course, she picked like the hardest
yes.
thing. She was like, she had seen this client quilt come in that was like all these applique hearts just on, off like white on white background squares.
Oh.
And she's like, I want to make that quilt. We were like, dude, you have to like okay. And so she went through all of our scraps. She like built her color gradient from the scraps that she picked. She cut out every single heart. She like appliqued them all onto, we showed her how to do the blanket stitch on the machine and like she
Yeah.
appliqued on every single heart and
Good for
she like built
her.
herself a system and then, had to teach her the seam allowance and she sewed the whole thing herself. And she had us long armor, obviously, because she's like, I'm not doing that part yet.
Yeah.
And so now that she's like more settled in her apartment, she's like, okay, her boyfriend's mom gave her like her old machine. So she's got a little sewing machine now. And so when I was just
Nice.
down there and visiting and I helped her finish up a quilt that she's going to give the teacher that she works for. And I was just like, stop, this is so cool. So I'm like, it is getting past, I think it's just because I'm like so much older and like now as she's getting into her like kind of young early adulthood, now she's kind of picking things up as like different
Yeah.
hobbies and stuff. I'm like, okay, it's in the family, like we're good, I
That's
think I
yeah.
just felt kind of like, who's this gonna pass to? Like
Yeah, but that's also so cool that she's gifting it because I feel like that's like, I mean, that's like next level quilting when
yeah.
you make one for someone. It's such a special gift.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
really cool.
She's really excited to give it to the teacher. And, she picked out, she's like, I'm just gonna do a patchwork of squares. I don't want it to be crazy, but I'll do a color
Yeah.
gradient and I'll pick fabrics that remind me of her, like in her favorite colors. And so she did this like
Yeah.
pinks and purples to like turquoisey blue down at the bottom. And she did it,
So
corner to
cool.
corner and just this little gradient. And then she had me quilt it with a pantograph that has like Mickey Mouse heads in it because her teacher
Oh,
loves
cute.
Disney. And so she's like, okay, you can put the
Cool.
little razzle dazzle on it with the Mickeys and
Yeah.
we're like so on the same page that when I was like, hey, we should use this backing, she was like, perfect. And I'm like, how about this
Yeah.
thread? She's like, absolutely, just like all these things. I'm
Oh,
like, I know that she'll want
fun.
this. And so I think that makes it fun too. But anyway, yeah, it's exciting. And I'm excited that she
It's
gets to
cool.
gift a quilt because the first two she made while she was living at home were for she kept them, which is great, keep your
Yeah.
quilts. That's for you, for you. And she made them
Yeah.
because she wanted them for their house, for their apartment. And
Yeah.
so getting to like go to her apartment and see her quilts, I'm like, my heart.
Yes. That's so
But
cool.
anyway, yeah. So
Yeah.
it's kind of
Aw.
interesting. And I like, I guess, do you hear people say that like sewing is a dying art or that quilting is a dying art?
Yeah, I definitely hear it around, but I'm like, no, it's not. I can't, I don't see any proof that it is.
Yeah,
So yeah, I don't know necessarily why people think that.
I know.
Um,
It seems so weird.
yeah, it's had such a resurgence. I mean, maybe if we said that in 2009 when or the early 2000s, I would say
Hmm.
maybe you could say then, because I feel like that's really when it kind of wasn't cool to sew really
Yeah.
at that time. But now, I mean, it's there, it's I see the younger generation
Hmm.
making some of the coolest things. I mean, very, very cool, very of the moment, creative, fashionable. So I mean, sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, this new generation is just, they've really got it. So yeah, I don't think it's dying.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's but I yeah, I do agree with you. So like my middle school, high school years were like 98 to like 2004. So I was in that kind
Mhm.
of
Yeah,
Y2K cusp craziness. But and so I
yeah,
like that's when I was like modifying my jeans. And so I feel like doing like little
yeah,
embellishments was kind of like, oh, that's cool. But like you had to stay within the aesthetic of like the low rise
yeah,
and the crop top and the, all that stuff. But I feel
yeah.
like now, like watching our younger son, like he is 20 and like he thrifts almost everything he puts on his body, and his girlfriend is the same. And like she's very crafty and like they modify their clothes. And like, so, and he like came home with these like old, like 90s, like burgundy and gold curtains from the thrift store. And
Uh-huh.
he's like, how do I use these jeans to make pants from this fabric? And I was like, are you ready for this? Because this is
Wow.
going to be a thing. And he's like, yeah, yeah. So I like we laid the fabric out. I showed him how to like fold the jeans in
Yeah,
half and like get you got to do the inseam. So if you got to leave yourself a lot of seam allowance, especially with this fabric, because it's going to unravel a little more than like denim would. And I don't have a
yeah,
serger. So you have to do these zigzag stitches if you want it to be finished. And he's like, okay, I think I need a pocket. And he's like, and a zipper. I'm like, if you, okay, like we'll add these things. I don't know if he ever
yeah,
like fully finished them, but he's
yeah,
like, wow, these fit. I'm like, because you use pants that you like that fit.
yeah,
Like that's one way you can like upcycle new fabrics
yeah,
is use something you already know fits you really well. And I'm like, all the
totally.
like finishing, like, making a waistband and putting a zipper in and pockets. I'm like, that's all like different stuff that we
Yeah.
can do. But yeah, anyway, it was just kind of fun to see him. He's like,
Mm,
help me.
that's
He just
really
like had
cool.
these fabrics in hand. He's like, I need pants out of this. I'm
Yeah, it's
like,
like that passion though, that's so like so good to see.
mm-hmm.
Even the thought of like I could do this
Yeah.
is so encouraging.
Yeah. And the
So
fact that he came, he's
yeah,
like, oh, my stepmom knows how to do this. I'm like, I do. And he's like, great, let's get to work. And I
yeah,
like showed him how to use my machine so he could sew. And I think,
yeah.
yeah. Anyway,
Yeah,
so
and maybe it's like people think it's a dying art because it's not necessarily like in schools the way it used to be.
mm-hmm.
But so maybe it's just like younger kids are learning in different ways or picking it up maybe a little bit later.
Yeah.
Or just it's like, I don't know. But I wonder how many people, how successful school sewing actually really was. You know,
Yeah.
if people, I don't know. I mean, I always get worried of like with people sewing for the first time and getting frustrated with like a bad sewing machine,
Mm-hmm.
like a really like a cheapo one that's just,
Mm-hmm.
gives just a headache kind of waiting to
Yeah.
happen. And then that person thinking, oh, I can't sew when it's really just they had kind of a bad machine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
It was the tool. It
so
wasn't the user.
Yeah. Or maybe in school they made like an apron and that was just super boring for them. So they never really got like that spark of like, let's do this,
Yeah.
it just kind
Yeah.
of was boring.
Yeah.
So maybe it's better the way it is now that it's not in school and that, every person kind of selects their own way to learn. But
Yeah.
hopefully, from what I see, kids are still learning. So
Yeah. Yeah,
let's
for sure.
hope it stays.
I hope so too. And I think it doesn't necessarily need to be in schools because kids have access to like YouTube and online, it's
Yeah,
like there's so many
totally.
sewing tutorial accounts on TikTok even. So it's like it's
Yeah,
infiltrated all the social media spaces where kids are. And I
yeah,
think that helps because it brings it to them where they're at. It's not forcing them to do it at school. Like where you said it could probably be boring, or if it's the teacher isn't um adjusting their expectations of the students based on the student's ability, and
hmm,
it could be crappy machines or whatever. But I
yeah.
also think like oh, what was I going to ask? Oh, do you think that maybe people have the perspective that it's a dying art because there's so much fast fashion, and they maybe it's just they're just not seeing people sewing?
Could be,
Yeah, I just wonder
could be. Yeah, I mean,
wonder that.
I wonder how. I'm just thinking of like the '60s is probably the height of. I mean, well, anything before that, right, was
Yeah.
probably a lot of home sewing where it was just more everyone did it. It was just
Hmm.
what you did.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting where that sentiment is coming from.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. And I'm just kind of thinking like when I'm out and about, do I see anyone who has made their clothes? Not very often, actually. Because
Yeah.
you can kind of sort of tell. I mean, you can kind of tell like the fast fashion.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I don't see that many people making their clothes. I actually
Yeah.
don't have that many friends who sew. But
Yeah.
yeah, but for some reason I won't believe that it's a dying art. Maybe
Yeah.
that's just my own stubbornness.
Well, I
But
think
yeah,
like the multi-billion dollar fabric and sewing machine and notions industry speaks
yeah,
otherwise. It's like this is telling
yeah,
you that it's not. There's a
yeah,
huge industry behind sewing and making, and yeah, being a sewist, having
yeah,
a sewing machine, a serger, it's like everything is so accessible,
yeah,
and so yeah, I think it is. I would just, I guess my assumption, or like, yeah, I think it's safe to call it an assumption. My assumption is that people are saying that because they're not in a circle of people that have that as a skill, or it wasn't maybe in
yeah,
their home because they came, I think like Gen X and like elder millennials, we were kind of like had parents where like both parents maybe worked. And so our moms weren't necessarily stay at home as my mom was. So I'm not speaking to this, but I'm just saying, like, I
yeah.
knew a lot of friends who like both of their parents worked. And so their
Oh
moms weren't
yeah,
necessarily at home doing hobbies or teaching them
yeah,
different things. I mean, they were just not in the same way. And so maybe
yeah,
they just kind of grew up in an environment where it was like their parents worked and they didn't ever see a hobby come out of that,
yeah,
and they're not, it's maybe not in their life, they don't have a spouse or a partner that does it, they don't have friends that do it, so it's kind of like in
yeah,
their world it seems like a dying art, but like in our world where that's what we
yeah.
do all day every day, it's like no, it's not dead, I'm still here
It's
doing it, so it's alive,
yeah, totally. Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
it's the handwork side of it, I don't know.
Yeah. I think Joanne's closing has kind of put a ripple. I mean, I felt it. It feels like, oh my gosh, I mean, of course, like we all have our feelings about Joanne's, I mean, it's
Right.
like it wasn't the best.
No,
Um,
but it was an
but
institution.
yeah, it's exactly. So I think everyone's kind of felt it
Yeah.
like a rather big loss to the sewing community, like
Hmm.
the local in-person, like
Yeah.
fabric in your hands,
Hmm.
um, kind of a feeling, or like, oh, I need binding for this quilt. I'm just going to run down to Joann's and see what they have, or a
Yeah.
backing or whatever.
Yeah.
My mom, that's when I'm with her sewing, like that's always the story. Like, okay, now we need a backing. Let's go find something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it feels like a loss. And the
Yeah.
last, I think 4 years now, I've taught at Sew Expo.
Okay.
It's in Puyallup, Washington,
Mhm.
up in the Northwest.
Yeah.
And there's always like rumblings, of like, oh, is So Expo gonna even make it back next year? That it's always kind of this unknown. But
Yeah.
of course, they're definitely coming back for 2026. But I think there is kind of this like undercurrent of like what's going on in the sewing industry. So it feels
Yeah.
maybe a little unstable right now, I guess I could
Yeah.
say, with like Joann's and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And I think
But
some, you know, some businesses just never really bounced back from, lockdowns and stuff, and they weren't
yeah,
able to get their online kind of setup working as well as their in-person setup, or it was too much of a swing for them to try to like move everything online. And so I think maybe that like visual kind of like, oh, this store shut down, that store shut down. Now Joann's like this huge, and like it's such as much of a like people are like, yeah, they deserve it. I'm like, I mean, okay, sure. But also for those of us who like grew up going there as like, ooh, let's go pick out fabric, or it's like that was
yeah.
always the thing. We've always had a Joann's around since I was a kid. And so the fact that there isn't one anymore, I'm like, what? I didn't buy
I
fabric from there
know.
anymore, but it's like it
Yeah,
was the gateway to all my crafting desires. And like if I needed
totally.
anything, even when I was teaching, I'd be like, oh, we're making these little like popsicle stick snowman ornaments. Like I'm going to Joann's, or like I need hot glue, going to
Yeah,
Joann's, yarn, I'm going to Joann's. It's like
totally.
it was still so much a part of my life. And so now that that's not there, yeah, I think for some people, if that's like their only kind of view of the sewing world and the crafting world, they're like, nobody does that anymore. I'm like, I mean, I beg to
Yeah,
differ, but also
yeah,
late stage capitalism is ugly and it looks like
yeah,
Joann's closing.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so I think it makes upcycling and making your own clothing and sourcing fabric in thrift shops and in secondhand
Totally.
shops like such a cool skill. And like I think more people are starting to kind of turn that way because they're like, well, I don't want to keep participating in fast fashion. I also am not super comfortable with like building my whole entire own wardrobe, but if I go pick a few
Yeah.
things I like, I can kind of modify here and there, or try
Yeah.
with, oh, I got this huge sheet for, $2 at the fabric shop. That can be the backing of a quilt. Absolutely.
Oh
Do it,
yeah. Oh, it can be a dress. Like
Yeah,
I make a lot of stuff out of top sheets. Like top sheets
really.
are the best hidden secret of, I mean, it's
Yeah.
fabric.
Yeah.
And a
That's a
lot of the
lot of fabric.
prints, yeah, a lot of fabric. And a lot of the prints are really cool and
Hmm.
it's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and men's shirts as well are, especially if you get a larger size, you get a lot of fabric and a lot of them are really, really quality cottons.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot at the thrift store for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. My favorite is when like I'm making a memory quilt for a client and it's like all men's dress shirts. I'm like, oh, thank
Oh,
God.
because it's like really quality fabric.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they always turn out so crisp and so
Yeah.
nice. And I'm like, oh, God bless men's shirts. Like, this is so great.
Totally. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
So it's all the other stuff
I
that I'm
bet they're
like,
pretty.
oh, they're beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
And some of like my favorite makers, they use upcycled materials and they use like, yeah, men's shirting and that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. And I'm just like, I always love it. It's like you
Yeah.
can spot it in a quilt a mile away too, because it just sets apart. It's so different. It's still
Yeah.
cotton. It's still, woven material, but it still is just
Yeah.
like, ooh, there's that men's shirt.
Something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I wish they made
Totally.
women's clothes as high quality, but that's a different story.
That's it.
They're like, you can have rayon. I'm like, wow, thank you so much.
Yeah. Gee, thanks. Yeah.
Oh, it's too cold when it's cold outside and it's too hot when it's hot outside. It's like you can't
Yeah.
win.
I
It's going to
know.
cling to your body if there's even a little bit of static electricity anywhere.
Oh, yeah, there's nothing like cotton.
Yeah.
Nothing like
Yeah.
cotton.
That was like one thing that
Yeah.
was felt so great when I quit teaching and I went through my closet and I took all my like rayon like teacher clothes like shirts out and I
Yeah.
just like I was like to all my friends who are still like in the professional, I'm like, does anybody want these? And some
Yeah.
people are like, oh yeah, I want that one, that. And then the rest just went to thrift because I was like, I
Yeah.
can't, I don't want to touch this material anymore. It's so gross.
Yeah. That's another thing about upcycling is like the chemicals. When you buy a new garment, they're like
Hmm.
laden with chemicals from the
Yeah.
dye and all the processing. So when you get something up, like when you get secondhand, it's already been washed so many times that the chemicals are, I don't know, mostly gone,
Yeah.
less anyways. So for people who have sensitive skin, it's
Hmm.
amazing. It's like so much the better way to go,
Yeah.
just for the chemicals.
Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't even think about that. Even though
Yeah.
I'm like the first thing I do when if I get new clothes is to wash them because I want the chemicals
Yeah.
off of them. When people
Yeah.
just like wear clothes straight out of the store, I'm like, are you nuts? Like,
I
first of all, do you
know.
know how many weird hands have touched that? And then also it came out of a chemical bath. Like, what? It's fine. Yeah, it's just
Oh,
so
yeah.
wild to me. But I also think that is too, like, I have experience with fabric. I know that that's a thing, and maybe some people just don't even know it. Like, it
They don't
smells
even
weird
think
for a
about
reason.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, don't
Yeah.
put
It's
that on your
just,
skin.
yeah, it just goes to show like we as a culture have no idea where the majority of our clothing actually comes from until you watch a documentary and you
Hmm.
see it's like, oh, you just
Yeah.
have no idea.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
scary. And I think the same
Yeah.
thing for quilting cotton, like for the
Yeah.
quilting fabrics, like, and I'm so guilty of this. So I'm like not judging anybody because I just like don't
Yeah.
even think about it. I don't usually pre-wash my fabrics. Like I
Oh
just
yeah.
start cutting and sewing, but I'm like, oh, that's the
Yeah.
same thing. Like they had to go through the dye
Oh
printing
yeah.
process and have chemicals. And some people are like, it's like you see on these like forums or like Facebook groups or whatever, like, I'm new, like, am I supposed to wash my fabric? And so many people are
Oh
like,
yeah.
absolutely, yes, you wash it every time, all the chemicals and da da da. And I was like, oh, why did
Oh,
that not like equate for me? And they're like, you're touching all that, it's getting through your skin, it's absorbed into your skin. And I was like, oh, yeah,
yeah.
that makes so
But
much
it's,
sense.
yeah, sometimes it's really tempting to cut on a nice, like smooth bolt, fresh off the bolt fabric rather than having to iron it or whatever before.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's true. There's so much chemicals,
Yeah.
so much chemicals on stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It it's it's wild. And yeah, I do like that the majority of quilts I make for clients are like clothing memory quilts. And so it's like as long as you clean them, you wash them so they're clean when
Yeah.
they come to me.
Yeah.
But then it's like I know that these are clothes that have been washed and worn and loved. And it's like I just don't
Yeah.
want them smelling being musty and weird. It's like
Yeah.
sometimes I've opened boxes of clothes and I'm like, nope, I close it back up immediately and just
Oh,
go dump everything in the washer because I'm like,
washer.
I don't know where this came from,
Yeah.
but it smells crazy. So that
Yeah.
is one thing that I do ask of people. I'm like, if you're having me make a clothing quilt, please
Yeah.
wash them first because yikes.
Totally.
Um,
Yeah.
but then it's like, yeah, knowing that they're like, it's not, you're not going to have all that newness, the chemicals and the stuff. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I just never even thought about it before. And there's some that I'm like, this
Yeah.
brand smells like old maple syrup if you press it. And I'm like, that's probably the chemicals
Oh,
burning off. And now I'm like, I've
yeah,
breathed that in. I'm like, oh my God, I have to stop doing that because I'm like,
I
I'm
know.
gonna make myself sick because that's my job. And it's like you think about, oh, factory working conditions are terrible and people get all these illnesses because they're breathing in all this stuff. And I'm like, that'll never happen to me. Says the
Yeah,
person ironing
I
brand new fabric and it's
know.
like wafting in my face. But anyway,
Yeah, no, it's like a good thing to remember, I guess. But yeah, yeah.
yeah,
It's
it's
I know that smell that like I totally know that
yeah.
burnt maple syrup, something is weird, plasticky smell.
Yeah.
I think
I'm
we've all
like,
experienced it.
Smells
It's really
good but
funny.
gross at the same time. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Like I like it, but I hate it. I don't know. Yeah.
Something only a sewist would know, that
Yeah,
smell. It's really like just, it's such a specific, particular thing.
it is. And when you
Yeah,
smell it, you're like, that's hot fabric. Like you just know. Yeah. Oh my
totally.
God.
That's hot fabric. Yeah. Oh, how funny.
Yeah, and not in a good way. So
Yeah, unfortunately not the hot fabric in a good way.
not like that's hot, but like that's hot. Oh,
Yes. Ugh.
yeah, don't breathe that in. Yeah, it's something like I think because I'm like, oh, it's just fabric. Like you just don't think about it, you know? But you're like,
Yeah, fabric is good.
yeah, like I'm making
Yeah.
something from handmade, you know? It has this
Yeah.
connotation that it's like so much better for everybody, for the environment if you make it yourself. And but yeah, you don't even think about that process. I don't even like we're spending so much time on this topic, but I'm like, yeah, this is like important. We need to be more
I
careful.
know. Yeah, it's like it's something that like I think it's interesting because it's come out through our conversation, but I don't know that it's necessarily something that I've pondered on to this level. I mean,
Yeah.
I've always been conscious of like, oh, if I buy that secondhand thing and use it, it's like chemical free basically.
Hmm.
But it's interesting just to have the chat about it because it makes a lot of sense. Um, and it, I mean, especially when if you sew a lot,
Hmm.
you know, like every day and you're ironing and touching
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
it can really add up. I think those are those like subtle um toxic chemicals that
Yeah.
can, we probably would be better without them.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, oh my gosh. Well,
Yeah.
that's gonna just make me pre-wash my fabric every time now.
Yeah, this is
And
our hot tip.
yeah, one hot tip is just always wash your fabric because you don't want that
Yeah.
nastiness on you.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so we've talked about you have PDF sewing patterns that people can get to from your website. You've mentioned you have online classes. So, yeah,
Yeah.
like what's the
Yeah.
range? Is it just one class? Is it a range of classes?
Yeah, so I have like my Stitch Playbook course is a beginning, like learn to sew course, learn to sew clothes course. That's where we
Okay.
make the sweatshirt.
Okay.
And that is it's just like a on demand. So you kind of follow the videos on your own time.
Okay.
And then I have Fit Clinic, which is I run live. So you have the course content, but then we meet on Zoom
Okay.
for like customized fit help. So that one is that's the only one that I do live.
Okay.
Just because it's, I mean, one, it's way more fun live. Usually we have a really good group together and everyone
Yeah.
brings their projects and, tries it on with Zoom. And
Yeah.
so it's a lot of fun. And then I have like a lingerie course that
Ooh.
is on demand as well. So underwear,
Mm.
all the lace techniques,
Okay.
do those. And yeah, I think, oh, I have a serger course just
Okay.
because sergers are, can be kind of a thorn in the side for some people. And so I go through like tension,
Mm.
diagnosing tension, and how you can look at your stitches and know exactly what tension you should, change,
Mhm.
all the stitches and all that. So
Awesome.
those are the courses. Yeah.
Okay. That's so good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love like my mom has an old serger and when I was making that one pair of pants, like
Oh yeah.
using that to finish all the edges and stuff, I was like, dang, this is nice. Like
It's
it's
really nice.
yeah. Yeah. I'm like, I
Yeah.
kind of want to get one for myself, but I'm like, I don't know where I'd put it. But they're so good.
Yeah.
And I've seen a
Very
lot of
cool.
like quilters, they serge the edge of their quilts when they're finished long arming them, or even just their quilt tops before they send them to
Oh,
be long armed. So the edges stay really nice and clean and they're kind of squaring it up in the process.
yeah.
And um, I know some long armers that offer that as like a service. So when they are finished long arming your quilt, they'll serge the edges for you so that when you put the binding on, it's like
Mm,
all sealed up and nice.
ready
And I
to
was like,
go.
I need a serger. That's a service I need
That's
to offer.
yeah. Oh,
But
that's yeah. I know Nancy Zeman. Do you remember
Hmm.
Nancy Zeman?
Yeah.
She used to do serger quilts where
Yeah.
she would do like the whole quilt on the serger.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's possible. Yeah.
Yeah. It just seals
Yeah.
everything up so nicely and
Yeah.
keeps it crisp. So yeah,
Yeah.
I love sergers and like um I'm a Bernina girl, so I have like Berninas for the business, but
Mm.
I want a serger. So I keep waiting. I just missed the serger event, so I need to wait until next year, but also I'm itchy. I want a serger.
Yeah. I mean, every once in a while too, you can find interesting ones. Like if you know the model,
Yeah.
that's you can find them, online sometimes too.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
secondhand ones, but
Yeah. I know my friend
depends.
got one.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I should do that, but it only
Yeah.
like hits my brain at random moments and then I forget all about it until I remember
Yeah.
again and then it's always in a spot where I'm like I can't just like go looking at the moment. So I'm like
Yeah. It kind of
maybe it's
takes some
just
time.
yeah, like it's just
Yeah.
obviously not meant to be because it's like not happening at the moment. But anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm obsessed
Oh
with surgery.
yeah. But that's like the right machine will always come. Like
Yeah.
the right machines always find us.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like when I'm ready it'll present itself like
For sure.
because that's just how the universe works, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. It's true. The sewing machine universe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the cat distribution system is the same as like the sewing machine distribution system.
Totally is. Yes.
Yeah,
That's
I
so
like it.
funny. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, so okay. You've got a lot of stuff. So you've got sewing in the city. That's your Instagram handle. So people
Yep.
you on
Yeah.
Instagram and it's your
Yeah.
website as well. Yeah. Sewing in
Yep. Sewinginthecity.com.
okay.
Yeah.
And it's just like sex and the city. It's not in, it's and sewing
And
and the
exactly.
city. And
Yep, exactly.
we'll put the link in the show notes so that people don't misspell it. They can just click on it.
Awesome.
And then so you've got the PDF patterns, you've got the online classes, you've got a YouTube channel, and you've
Yeah.
got your clothing brand, LindyLindy, is that still going active, strong? People shop your
Yeah.
design?
Yeah, I just I was a little slow because I was working on a big wholesale order behind the scenes. So
Oh,
I dropped off an order in New York to a new bridal store that's going to be opening. So that
oh,
was really exciting.
yeah,
But yeah, just do, it's slow fashion. So it's not like tons of pressure.
yeah.
I do a lot of like made to order. So someone will contact me. And because I have a huge vintage linen stash. And so,
Oh,
I can pull things based on what they want.
yeah.
A lot of weddings. So people who are getting married and either like their robe for when they're getting ready,
Oh, okay.
or like the pajamas for, when they're getting their hair done and stuff.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah, so that's what it is. It's I get to work with really beautiful textiles and embroideries,
Mm,
mostly all done by hand.
mhm.
So it's really it's like another expression of creativity. And
Yeah.
I love it. So, but it's not, I don't put a ton of pressure on myself to like every season, we got to get stuff
Yeah.
out. It's really just kind of as it's meant to be. So
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. But I
yeah,
like that you're not pushing yourself to make it be one thing or another. You're letting it be what it is at that time and you're
yeah,
catering to your your clients' needs and wants because I think that's kind of where fashion can get weird is it's like things come out and they're like, no, this is cool. And you're like, is it though? Like,
is it?
yeah.
Yeah,
Like I know people are so
totally.
obsessed with barrel pants right now, but I can't stand them.
Oh, I can't either.
And so I'm
I
like, I
can't
don't want to
do
yuck
it.
anybody's yum, but I'm like,
Yeah,
have you seen my body? I would look atrocious in those. It's like one of those things where I'm like, you
yeah,
can tell me that this is cool and on trend, but like I'm not going to wear it. And the fact that
yeah.
like that's what you're kind of pushed and pressured to wear. So I like the concept of just like, no, stick with what's classic, what like works for you.
Your body,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And
It's
like,
it's more like you said,
yeah.
like working with your body rather than the trend.
Yeah.
I think that's where like sometimes trends just they're so annoying because
Yeah.
if it if like you're in a season and the things that are trendy don't work for your body or your style, it's like
Yeah.
that's where it's great to sew. You
Yeah.
can you yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly. You can make your own stuff or yeah, adjust things to fit you and be in fashion, but on your own terms, I guess.
on your own terms. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or find something from the trend when it was first trendy, like
Yeah.
10, 20 years ago, and bring it into the present rather than creating new stuff from, it doesn't always have to be about creating new stuff. It can be taking something from the past and just bringing it into now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that because it feels pressury. It feels pressury, but again,
Yeah.
like being able to sew your own things or upcycling or modifying what you already have just can help save you from that.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's a good way to kind of get off the fast fashion if anyone is on that,
Yeah.
that um like that hamster wheel.
Hmm.
It's the perfect way to jump off of it and
Yeah.
still, and because I struggle with that sometimes. I'm like, I love fashion and I
Yeah.
love clothes. And so I think that upcycling in and like secondhand kind of transforming stuff is a great way to still be creative,
Hmm.
so make things you like and still be fashionable
Yeah.
in a little bit of more of a mindful way than just
Yeah.
buying like the H&M stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And if you
Yeah.
find a piece that you really love, like if it's worn out or you find something thrifted that you're like, oh my gosh, I love this and I can't find this like cut or style anywhere else, like deconstructing that garment to
Oh
figure out the
yeah.
pieces and how it was built, you can like kind of reverse engineer your own kind of patterns and you can like,
Yeah.
you know, build like the toile, like your muslin ghost, I call it.
Oh
'Cause,
yeah.
um
That's a
I just like always called it a ghost as a kid because I was like, what is that? But
yeah.
it was always like
It's so
skilly
funny.
draped over the like
Yeah.
the body forms or whatever they're called. And so anyway, but you can create your own from that. And I think, yeah, it just takes
Yeah.
time. And I think that's where like the stepping away from like that mindset of like, I'll just go buy one at the store. We kind of have
Yeah.
to pull back from that idea that like everything is just available all the time. And
Yeah.
that's hard. It's hard to come out of that.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. And
instant.
instant gratification,
Yeah.
everything. Yeah. But it's a good point. Like there's something really, I'm sure like from childhood, like there's something so special about like seeing the fabric, seeing the
Mhm.
pattern,
Yeah.
sewing it for a couple of weeks, and then
Yeah.
it's finally there. Like there's something like that brings out like a different sense of enjoyment and satisfaction than just going and buying it could ever bring.
Right. And you're
So,
like, I'm the only person on earth that has this.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah. That feels kind
And
of cool. And that was like the whole thing with having, my formal dresses custom made
yeah.
by my mom. There was a few times where we were able to buy something off the rack and it just worked just fine, but
Yeah.
then it was going to be cheaper to do it that way than to have to go buy all the material and have my mom make it. So that worked
Yeah.
out a couple times, but the times where she did make it, I was just like, I am a princess. I'm the only person ever on the planet to ever have this dress in
Yeah.
this color, in this style, the way that we modified it. And
Yeah.
it just made those things, those times feel so special because it was like,
Totally.
I wasn't just, I wasn't one of the girls like scrambling to get the best dress off the rack at the store. It was like, oh, well, mine's custom made. And then it was just like gave it this
Yeah.
whole new level of like I don't know. I think, having feelings of like not really fitting in or not really being like quote
Yeah.
unquote popular, it kind of
Yeah.
gave me that feeling of like edge of like confidence coming into
Yeah.
a space where I kind of didn't feel like I belonged anyway. But then having
Yeah.
this like extra little like people be like, where'd you get that dress? I'm like, oh, my mom made it. And they're like, what? You know, it'd like blow their minds
Uh,
because it looked so good. And so anyway,
yeah.
uh,
There's definitely something in that with the confidence. I can completely relate to that scenario
yeah.
of, yeah, it's the thing that kind of makes you feel a part of the world in some way, like, or that belonging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause I
Or
think it can,
value. Yeah.
yeah, like valuing yourself above like this cookie cutter mold that you're supposed to try to shove yourself into, like, and that's
Yeah.
exactly what you're saying with like the sizing. They like, this is what a size medium is, and if you don't fit
Yeah.
this, then you're fat. And it's like, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
what? Like, but
I
this
know.
medium is different than that medium is different than that medium. So if like you're saying one, this like this letter M is supposed to fit my body every time and it doesn't, like, what does that tell me about myself? And if it's like,
Yeah.
but everybody else is wearing this and I want to participate, but it doesn't look right or doesn't fit right. It's like just this whole mind game of like keeping us small. And I think when your outfit fits well
Yeah.
and you're comfortable, you can't stop me. I dare you to
Yeah.
try. Like, come at me, you know?
Exactly.
It's like this
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
fierceness comes out in me that I'm like, try me, bro, you know?
Exactly. I made this.
Yeah. Like you
Yeah.
can't touch me.
Totally. There is a confidence, especially like I just always my like bust, like you
Hmm.
go to the store and it like everything you try on is too tight, but
Hmm.
then you can make it and you can make a simple adjustment to make it fit you. And
Yeah.
then, it's not a problem anymore. It's
Yeah.
not even a like it's not even a thing
Yeah.
anymore. Whereas like
Yeah.
if you only shop ready to wear, it's a thing. Or like
Mhm.
hips, or like a
Mhm.
larger thigh or longer
Yeah.
legs or something, anything that just, those are like our unique, we should like love those parts, like they're what makes us unique.
Yeah.
But if you're only able to shop ready to wear, it can get frustrating. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm super passionate about that. Just, we all have unique bodies, and it's not to be shunned, or
Yeah.
like discounted, or feel like, oh, about. It's
Yeah.
like, no, I can make something that fits me and gives me that feeling like, try me,
Yeah.
I got this. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It's like having a smaller bust and then, but having like a booty and thighs and
Yeah.
long legs. I'm like, okay, this is it. So like separates, of like swimming suits and that kind of thing. I like got so excited when I could finally start buying like, oh, I can buy a large bottom and a small top or, whatever it was. It's
Yeah, I
like,
remember when they started doing that.
yeah.
Yeah,
And I know for
yeah,
some, they're like, why can't they just sell suits as like, I saw, because, I'm perpetually online and I was on
yeah,
threads and somebody had posted like, I don't understand why swimming suits like two pieces have to be sold separately. Like just sell it as one thing. It's one suit. And everybody was like, excuse you, do you have an A cup
yeah,
and a large bottom? Like, no. So like if I had to buy one size, what am I going to buy? The size that fits my butt or the size that fits my boobs? Like, what would you have me do? And they were like,
yeah,
I think they like ended up deleting that post because it was like so many people were like, no, 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 this is actually great. So
yeah. Oh,
it's,
yeah,
but that's another thing too, is like if you can make the things that fit your body, you know, it's, your measurements. And I think that's one thing that I think throws people off when they're looking at patterns is the
mhm,
sizing. So they're like, no, I'm a
yeah,
size two. And I'm like, yeah, but this is like pattern sizes are so different than on the shelf.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
a size two, I love brands that sell by like the waist size. Like this is a 31. I'm like, great. I know that that's going to fit me.
yeah,
It's like, or this
yeah.
is a
It's
29.
consistent.
Yeah. Like, thank you,
Yeah,
Levi's, for doing that. But, the, so seeing and like growing up seeing that, like I knew it was different. And like
yeah.
my ex aunt, I have to tell this story because this just
Oh, yeah.
reminded me and it cracks me up. But so my, my mom is the oldest also, and she has three younger
Okay.
brothers. And when the brother like closest to her age was getting married, she made the bridesmaids dresses for everybody. And it was just like everybody had like a little bit different strap or whatever, but it was all this like navy blue, like chiffon. It was
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah,
Um, and my ex aunt, who was married to her youngest brother, she had some. knockers. And when my mom was like getting her sizing, her measurements for the pattern to make her dress, she's like, okay, well, I need to make a size 14. And she was like, what? She was losing her mind. And my mom was like,
Oh,
it's for your bust size because if I make the dress a size 2, your boobs won't fit. Like she was literally just like,
yeah.
this is literally how dress, like this is how patterns work. She's like, absolutely not. You are not going to make, if you make me a size 14, I will lose my, like she like bullied my mom into making a smaller size.
Oh,
So she made a full dress in a smaller size and it didn't fit because this
fit.
woman is crazy. And my
Oh
mom was like,
no.
do you see? Do you see? She was like, it's literally does not mean
Oh,
anything. It's just your like,
yeah.
she's like, you have
And
to
it
start with like the
varies.
biggest measurement and then you tailor everything else down. Like your hips
Yeah.
might be a 2, but your boobs are a 14. It's like,
Yeah.
anyway, I just like died. I died. Even as a kid, I was like 11 at the time, or I don't even know.
Yeah. But you
I
remember.
was young. I was like 12. No, I
Yeah.
think I was like 13 or 14 at that time. Doesn't matter. I was still young enough, but because I had already been around patterns and knew that that's how they worked, and my mom had explained that all to
Yeah.
me, I was like,
Yeah.
what a crazy woman. Like,
Yeah.
I can't believe she's throwing such a huge fit about this. And even now to this day, and like she's an ex-aunt for a reason, but it just still like every once in a while it like pops in my head and I'm like, it
Yeah.
is stressful though when like you are so focused on your body and like your size and
The
like the
number.
numbers and you're not like
Yeah.
how things fit, it's like it I,
Yeah.
and she obviously like were issues, but anyway, I just think of that and I'm like, god, it's
Yeah.
just that's one thing I think an adjustment for people is when they're buying patterns and they're like doing their
Oh,
measurements and like
yeah.
getting what size they need to make. It's like don't equate it to anything else. Like
Yeah.
ready to wear
In
is not
anything.
the same game at all.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like,
Those numbers are really screwy on the back of the commercial patterns.
yeah,
Yeah. I think for a certain generation, there was like some generation was just really stuck on the size numbers. I'm not sure why. But it really was a thing. Like
yeah.
you were like a number.
Yeah. Well, like I think the
And
80s and 90s like diet culture
yeah, yeah,
broke
it was.
people's
It
brains. And
was.
like
Yeah.
I know my mom struggled really hard with it and in turn like I had a lot of issues. I'm like better now cuz lots of therapy,
Yeah.
um
Yeah. It was real.
but it's like got such a chokehold on people even now. It's like I have friends
Yeah.
whose moms are just like obsessed still. And they're like, Mom, you have to stop. Like it doesn't matter. And they're like, but if I'm
Yeah.
not a size 2, then who am I? And they're like, my mom,
Yeah.
like, the wife of so and so, your grandma,
Yeah.
you're an aunt, you're a sister, you're all these other things. Like you're a teacher, you're a whatever, a CPA, like you have a degree, you're this like learned person, the size of your body does not matter. And they're just like,
Yeah.
but my size, and you're just like, oh my God, it's exhausting.
Yeah. It really did a number on people
Yeah.
that generation of diet. It was the diet culture. You're totally
Hmm.
right.
Yeah.
I have, yeah. Yeah, it's so funny. I
It's
mean, it's
hard to
not
remove.
funny. Yeah, it's
It's not
sad.
funny, haha. It's
No.
funny, sad.
Yeah, funny,
Yeah.
sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Ugh. Wow. I could talk about this for hours, obviously, because I have opinions, but I will
Yeah.
we'll wrap this up so you can get back to your day. And but I just, yeah, thank you so much for being on the show and talking about
Yeah.
what you do and your perspective on sewing and making. And your stuff is beautiful. And I've been like eyeballing some of your patterns, like, okay,
You.
what am I realistically gonna make and what realistically fits into my life and my style that I've been really enjoying consuming your content and seeing everything that you're doing. So
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me and for such a great conversation. It's not very often that I get to talk to other sewists. And so
yeah,
it's been really fun. Been really
yeah.
fun.
Well, hopefully new people find you and there's such a great community online and even quilters, it's like just we like to swoop people in and bring them along with us because it's like
Yeah.
sewing's for everybody. There's all different aspects of it and whether you're quilting or making garments or there's an avenue for everybody. So
I agree. In the garment world too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before we go, do you have like a tried and true tip or just a piece of advice for the listeners?
Yeah, well, this is something that I kind of goes back to our conversation, but something I've been focusing more on is just going with your own rhythm in sewing. And if that means that you take a break for a while, you do it. If it means like making one thing, it takes you a month or 2 months to make one thing, but you finish it in the end. I think that that is what I'm trying to do more of, just not getting caught up in other people's timelines for
Mm,
what making something should look like or should take,
yeah.
and just kind of going with your own flow. And I think in today's world, like social media can kind of it can distort the reality of how long things can take. And I hear a lot of people say like, oh, but I don't have a lot of time to sew. It's like, just do it on your own time. Like you can
Mhm.
finish something in a month and that's totally okay as well. So
Yeah. 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 I think that's so great. That sentiment of listening to your own rhythm, following your own path and like not pushing yourself to again that kind of that theme of like keeping up with the Joneses. Like you don't have to.
yeah,
If you're making it for
yeah,
yourself, then that's all that matters and
yeah,
just getting it done. Yeah. No, I
yeah,
love that.
yeah.
Because it's the same
Enjoy
with
the
quilting.
making.
Yeah. If you don't enjoy the
Yeah.
process anymore, then why are you doing it?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it's like, oh, I really want to finish this thing, but it's like, but I actually just like the sewing of it. I just
Mhm.
like the time in the sewing room quiet.
Yeah.
That it doesn't necessarily have to be like a push to finish
Yeah.
something on a certain day or time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm kind of reconnecting back to that rhythm that I have,
Hmm.
that ultimately makes it more enjoyable and more creative too, because it's like it can get, I think that's kind of where like being like having content on out in the world kind of
Yeah.
can skew things a little bit, because it's like,
Hmm.
oh, but I really want to do this video or whatever. But when I'm just doing my personal sewing, I just can't have a timeline on it.
No.
So
Yeah. I'm like, don't rush me. Like, I'll get to it
don't
when I
rush
get to
me.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. No,
And
that's
sometimes just, yeah, taking that pressure away also makes it more enjoyable. So,
yeah,
yeah.
definitely. Yeah. I'm always a last minute girly, thanks to my ADHD. But so the
Yeah.
procrastinating is for real, but I always feel so good when I finally do finish something. And even if something takes me a long time, I'm just like so grateful that I took the time to make it, even if it's like
Yeah.
a mad scramble, like sometimes my projects are because I'm like, oh, I wanted this thing for this specific event, or I wanted to take this thing with me to this thing. And
Yeah.
so it's like, I have to finish it now. So sometimes
Oh,
that does kind
yeah.
of push me to finish, but
Oh,
in a way that I'm like, oh, good, I get to like have the satisfaction of doing this thing I said I was going to do. So,
yeah. I mean, I think even that, like sometimes I'll sew stuff like at the last minute too. And I mean, there is like, I think that's okay too. Like,
yeah,
sometimes
yeah,
people, yeah, it's like, that's cool. Like, that's your rhythm at that moment. And like,
yeah,
there's a reason for it. So
yeah,
I think it's all welcome.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's all okay. Nobody's going to
Yeah.
like rip it out of your hands because you didn't do it in a certain amount of time or light it on fire.
Yeah.
It's like nothing
Yeah.
bad is going to happen to you, I promise.
Exactly.
The reminder, like we're not
Totally.
being chased by lions, we're just sewing some hay.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah, we're
okay.
not saving lives. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again so much, Christine. And like I said, I'll link all your stuff in the show notes so that if anybody wants to check out
Cool.
any of your links, you've got tons of stuff out there and they can engage with your content how they
Awesome.
choose. And thanks again.
Thank you so much. Yes.